Happy morning, dear friends. Here's yours, Dr. Rajanta. Welcome to Demystify with Ajay. Dear friends, we are in a generative AI series. And so far, we have worked with the basics of pandas, data frames, viewing, selecting, filtering, and editing. But when you are preparing data for generative AI workflows, basic alone are not enough. You often need to reshape data sets, apply complex functions, group and aggregations values, or even categorize data into meaningful labels. Okay, let things about like this. Say preparing a chart data set for LLM. Fine tuning might require pivoting conversation into prompt response format. And building a multimodal dataset could involve stacking and unstacking captions linked to image IDs and applying custom pre-process functions like cleaning text, normalizing, embedding, or scoring response becomes critical before training. Grouping and aggregating data helps you analyze model outputs by category such as sentiment class or style or length. And dear friends, in this session, we will explore the advanced functionalities of Pandas data frame as like shifting, reshaping, pivoting, iterating, applying functions with apply and pipeline, transformation, aggregations, grouping, and categorization. By the end, you will see how these powerful tools let you turn raw or a messy dataset into structured, intelligent training material for generative AI models. Okay, let me just go one by one. Of course, we are just going to start with sifting. Dear friends, the data frame is a structured tabular objects and some operations can be performed on it to manipulate the values inside. Among the simplest is shifting, which essentially consists of moving the internal values of the data frame for A1 of a series or by one position. So while maintaining the position of the labels on both the index and the column unchanged. Dear friends, here let me just create a data frame which is essentially done with the sift. So kindly have a note of it. Yeah, of course, this is the data frame we have just created. Yeah, of course, it is a reshaping of 3 into 3 matrix, and we have just provided the index as in a lowercase, ABC as the index, and to that column in uppercase, that is ABC. And dear friends, the sifting object such as data frame is essentially done with the sift method, and kindly have a note of it. This is the sift method. When on making it, if we want to move the exact value within each row by one position, yeah, we will pass the value 1 as the argument to the sift method. So kindly have a note of it, how we are just going to sift it, and we are just going to store that sifted data frame in the DF2. Okay, so kindly just have a note of it, how it happens. Yeah, see here. And this is the exact sifter, and as we can see, all the values have been translated vertically by one row. The first row has remained empty, and of course NaN is exactly, it is a missing value. Yeah, while the values that were present in the last row has been lost. So these are several ways to manage these valuation or item losses. So one, for an example, is to fill the missing value with a value decided by us. So to do this, add the optional fill value. That is, can also be done. So here, of course, here we are just providing an optional. Okay, so this is a parameter where you can just fill it with the desired value which is going to assign it. And here, dear friends, we have been assigned as 0, and kindly have a note of it what it is going to be done in the DF2 now. So kindly see here. Yeah, of course, it has been done with 0. And dear friends, as you see from the result, yeah, now the elements left empty due to the sifting are set to 0. So however, even in this way, the value of the last row are lost. Okay, so it may be what we want, but it can be an efficient way to move the values of the last row to the first row. How it is possible? Yeah, kindly have a note of it. Yeah, that is what we are just going to do here. And yeah, that exact shifted value here and this exact location has to be moved to the first one. Okay, moved to the first one, and see here, this is how it has been done. And yet another approach is also there. Approach is there, of course. This is actually depending on the users needed. If it is permanently, if you want to delete with NaN, or the values how you want to be, or of course you can just go ahead with some other missing values or some other shifting values. So kindly just have a note of it, dear friend. First of all, let me just see what is there in the DF2. Okay, and this is what the data frame, and when on just making this, okay, so the shift method as default behavior, shift elements values vertically down and by a single position unless otherwise specified. So yeah, here we just go, see here, it was done. So here we just lost the drop A we provided. So of course the A has been dropped, and yeah, we can also move that element still vertically but in the opposite direction, that is upward. So let me just make it shifting to the upward. So how it is possible is, yeah, we are just going to make use it in a negative variable. So here, so if we want to shift all the values 2 lines up, yeah, we will pass -2 as the mentioned argument. Okay, so we want to shift it to the -2. So kindly just see here. Where happened? What is that thing? Yeah, of course, I just scroll to that above. See here, this one, 7, 8 and 9. Of course, it was here. And all the 2 rows that has been shifted. Once if we want to move the values of the element horizontally, that is from column to column, yeah, we will add the optional parameter axis. Okay, so till now we have just done with the row formation, and kindly just have a note of it. Let me just have an examples of an axis 1. So, and here we are just shifting it with 1 and axis 1 towards the column. So see here how it happened. And as we see from the result, the values have shifted to the right, leaving the first column with NaN, that is the missing values. To get the reverse movement, negative integer are also entered here. So let me just enter here as negative values and kindly have a note of it, how it can be happen. So here too, the management method for columns without values are the same as for the vertical shifting, which we just done in the rows. Okay, yeah. Now let me just move on to the second concept, reshape. See, dear friends, another way to modify the internal structure of a data frame is to modify its size. So this technique is called the reshape. And one of the way to reshape a data frame is to reorder the internal elements, moving the indexing level from column to row or row to column like that. Okay, now to better understanding this operation, yeah, let's start with a simple data frame, yeah, with a single indexing level both on row on the column. Okay, so let me just make it. Yeah, of course, here is the data frame DF, and we have created with 3 into 3, and of course we have the index as the lower ABC and the column with upper. Okay, so let's see how these methods work. Yeah, of course, we have 2 methods. One is stack and unstack. Okay, so let me just make use of these methods work, and let me just apply the stack method to this data frame first. Okay, so kindly have a note of it. This is what the stack. Okay, and I'm just going to print it first. Okay, so see here. So how it just shows, I'm just going to have a view of first of all A, and to this value of ABC, okay, to the value of ABC, and then going for the B and to its value of ABC, and next row C and to its value of ABC as 7, 8, 9. Okay, so of course, dear friend, we can see from the result now the indexing level on the rows are 2, while there are no indexes on the column. In fact, the data frame has been reduced in size to a series with 2 indexing level. So the column index has been nested for each label present in the lowest level of index. Okay, now we have under the label A, what we just have, of course, A, B, C, that is the exact column, and same for that for the other B and C also. Okay, yeah, dear friends, in this way, a series of 9 elements is obtained with all the values that keep the label of this starting data frame as indexes without having any loss of information. So this exact reshape operation undergone by the data frame is perfectly reversible. Apply the unstack method, okay, which does the reverse operations. We get back the starting data frame as the result. So kindly have a note of it. If I just want to unstack it is in the sense, yeah, original data frame. So this is because the unstack method works exactly the other way around, taking the last row index level and transferring to the column. So in this case, since this level is not present, the series is converted back into the data frame. Okay, dear friends, let me just move on to the multi-indexing. This multi-indexing data frame, for an example, with 2 indexing level per row and 2 per column, that is what we are just going to take it as an example. And yeah, first of all, let I just create it. So with the tuples of XA, XB, YA, YB, and of course it is with the uppercase of XA, XB and YA, YB. So kindly just have a note of it, how my multi-indexed data frame looks like. And dear friend, we have seen that the method stack and unstack convert the last indexing level, okay, present on both rows and columns. But this default behavior can also be changed. In fact, the level to be converted can be passed as an argument. See, for an example, if we convert the highest level of index of the column, here let me just take it as a level 0. Okay, so here if we just make it as like a level 0, okay, in index of the row, the optional level parameter can also be omitted. Okay, so and the integer value can directly be passed to the method. So kindly have note of it. Here we just have the level 0 and how I'm just going to make it as like a stacking. So yeah, as from the result, yeah, you can see the result from this. Yeah, this time it is the index of the column, okay, at highest level. And yeah, when you just make on to the unstack, how you just feel it. So here we just go with the unstack with the same level of 0. So see here, yeah, so the same goes for unstack also. That is, yeah, it is the index of column at the highest level 0 and which is converted into index of rows and put at the last level. That is what happened here. Here we just made it everything. Okay, yeah, fine, dear friends. Let me just move on to the next topic, pivoting. See, dear friends, one of the possible way to reshape a data frame is pivoting. And this process restructure the data frame in a complex way by simultaneously applying the reindex and the aggregation of the internal elements. Okay, so let me just have it. Yeah, of course, here what we have just done is, yeah, we are having something related to the table with red and black, and yeah, of course, we have something related to the indexing and the columns. So kindly just have a note of it. What is the data frame? Okay, so let me just move on to the data frame. See here, dear friends, the exact pivoting operation is performed in pandas through the function called pivot table. Okay, I just to show here. Yeah, this is what the pivot table. This is the exact method, and this method accepts several optional parameter such as column is there, which converts the value present in the column to the indexes for the column of the pivot, and the index parameter converts the value of in the column to indexes for the row of the pivot, and the index label of the original data frame are not considered, and for each label aggregation the corresponding values in the starting data frame are aggregated using the function specified within the optional here, which I just given as aggregation function. What you want, what the exact aggregation function do you want to apply here? Okay, so this is what happening, and let I just execute it by applying this pivot table. Yeah, here it is our data frame, values, index, columns, and aggregation functions has been done, and towards the aggregation function we have applied summation. Okay, so let me just execute it, and here we go. And yeah, you can extend this also, but anyhow, kindly have a note of it, what it happened. Of course, it is just done with the black and to the red, and how it has been done towards the summation according to the C and D and towards the index of A and B. Okay, yeah, fine, dear friends. Yeah, as I have already specified, yeah, you can extend the pivot table by applying different aggregations function also for each column of the values, and the aggregation parameter can in fact accept a dictionary also. And yeah, here I have just given an example of dictionary. Okay, so in which the keys or the column, which the values or the aggregating function. If we want to apply more function to the same column, yeah, we can insert a list as a value also. Okay, so here, yeah, we have just given the result of something which we just call the maximum and minimum. Of course, the aggregation is like here we just applied for summation and to the mean value. So kindly have a note of it, how this pivot table happened. Yeah, of course, we just have summation, maximum, minimum, yeah, and mean values also, where yeah, this is the index of A and with the column values of B, and yeah, here we just make the aggregations of this black and red functionality. Okay, yeah, first, next we just go on to the iteration. Dear friend, this exact iteration or structured data. Okay, structured data as dictionary, or more simply a list and n-dimensional array, or in the Python, yeah, all structured objects regardless of their shape or often involved in the implementation that require an iteration that allows access to the element within them. So for the data frame, yeah, we have seen that there are selection techniques that allows us to overcome the system in the most common operations. But sometimes, particularly if we need to implement methods that work in some way on this type of objects, yeah, it is necessary to iterate. Okay, yeah, let me just see how the iteration functions works. And yeah, dear friends, here we have given a series of functionality. Okay, yeah, let me just iterate through a series. Will it just behave the same way as iterating through an array. Okay, so it will directly scan the element inside on which you can operate directly. Okay, so for an example, by applying a function to its value, then of course let's how we can just define it. Yeah, kindly just observe it. Yeah, here is an series is there. Okay, and let I just execute that series. And of course, dear friend, you can loop this one through one level only. Okay, so yeah, of course, by using the for constructor, of course, we are just going to use the for constructor. And when on using the for constructor, kindly observe what is just going to happen. Yeah, to this for constructor, it won't. Let me just apply something, a functional of square root. Okay, each and every time when we just take each of the value in the series, yeah, let me make it towards the square root, and kindly just observe, dear friends. In this case, it is of simplicity. We have just calculated the square root of the individual element. Okay, that is what it happened here. So kindly just have a look of it. And dear friends, the iteration on the data frame instead works in the same way as the iteration on the dictionary. So it will scan the column label like the keys in the dictionary and then operates on them. So how on them itself? Of course, it is in like a column wise. So thus defining a test data frame, yeah, of course, let me just make use of it. So yeah, here it is the same data frame. So let we make use of it by that simple iteration. Okay, and yeah, dear friends, if we perform a for loop in this data frame, this time we will only get the list of the column. Okay, list of the columns onto that labels. Here it is what? List of the columns onto the labels, because we are just passing only the I, that is the label. And in order to access the element contained in that, in the data frame at the lowest level, what we have to do? Yeah, we should apply within that for loop. Which one? This exact I towards the within the for loop. So kindly just observe, dear friend, how we are just going to make it. Yeah, knowing from the previous example, that is I corresponding to the column, and here we just go. Got it? Yeah, in this way, in each for loop, we get a series corresponding to the column selected by the iteration I. And if on other hand, you want to iterate over the element inside the column, you will have to add another level of iteration. That is what here we just say. Of course, it is a nested loop like that. Okay, so it is as like a nested loop. Yeah, kindly just have a note of it. Another level of iteration. So there will be a two nested for loop. Okay, and kindly have note of it how it happens. So yeah, we just need the exact one. So 147, 258 and the 369. Yeah, we are just getting it towards the print functionality. Okay, dear friends, we have seen how it is possible to iterate between elements within the data frame by the means of for loop. That is what we have just seen here in this example. And the Panda library, however, provides method specifically designed to iterate with the data frame more efficiently. Okay, so one among the thing is what? Item. Okay, first of all, let me just create, yeah, the same sample. We are just going to make use of it, a data frame. Okay, so at this level, yeah, the item method allows you to iterate within a data frame at the level of key value pair. Okay, so let me just apply that here. Okay, kindly just have a note of it, dear friends. In the for constructor, we are having two different iteration. Indices are entered, one for the key and one for the value. So which in the case data frames are respectively the label of the single column and corresponding series. Okay, so that is what we are just going to have it. The two indices will be handled by the item method. So let I just execute this and kindly observe here. Yeah, what we have just done in the previous one, kindly just have a note of it. This is what in for loop we just done it as a nested, and here we just done by using the two indices. Okay, this form of iterations allows us to iterate by column using only one for loop. Okay, one for loop. And if on the other hand you want to iterate line by line within the data frame, yeah, we can make use of some more functionalities, that is iterate row and iterate tuples. And this iterate row method works in a similar way to items with a pair of key value iteration indices, where this time, however, the column label is a key and the value of each single row are used for values, converting them into a series. So this method allows us to iterate row by row through the index series pair. So here it is the exact one. I just show you the execution. So see here, dear friends, with the same for, yeah, we are just going to make it through this iterate row, and here we having the exact example. And yeah, dear friends, the iterate tuple method is also there, which allows you to iterate line by line, similar to the previous, which we have just seen, the iterate row. And by considering them as a name tuple, okay, this iteration method is more efficient than iterate row. The element of every single column will be directly accessible, calling the corresponding label as an attribute. So while the index label will be accessible via the index attribute, which we just pass it towards the functionality. Okay, and kindly have a note of it. These exact iterative tuples is much more effective. So how it happens? So they are obtained from the iterator, okay, iteration of named tuples, okay, so whose internal values can be easily accessed as attribute. Dear friends, in the previous section, we saw how to manipulate the data frame in their internal structure. And in this part, yeah, we will deal with the different type of manipulation, which consist of carrying out operation essentially on the values contained within them. Dear friends, in Python, as in all other programming language, values can be processed through the use of functions. So this applies to any type of data, whether they are numbers or times, character strings, or complex objects. Okay, in this case of numbers, we have functions that allow you to perform any mathematical calculation on them. First of all, let me just go on to apply functions on a data frame. The Panda library relies heavily on its calculation and building objects such as data frames on the NumPy library. There is therefore considerably compatibility between objects such as data frames and series and NumPy functions. Many NumPy functions can be used directly on series and data frames with a limitation. So, however, to the fact that values within them are numeric. Dear friends, let me just begin with define our data frame with random values between zeros and ones, and here we just go with the data frame, and kindly have a note of it. Yeah, of course, we are just going to create it with a 4x4 matrix and with the index as A, B, C and D, and of course the label of the columns are uppercase A, B, C, D. So let me just have the data frame. And yeah, dear friend, and any NumPy computation functions can be applied to it. So for example, in the case of the element wise functions, so let me just have here, see here, we are just having an exponential. So when we just go for an expression related to this, and of course we want an result, and kindly just have a note of it. Yeah, the result of the functions, you still get a data frame object where even the rows and columns labels remains unchanged. So if I just want to know what is the exact type of the data, yeah, let me just have the type of the data here. Yeah, I have also specified it, and kindly have a note of it. What is the type of the data? Of course, it is the data frame. And if you want to convert the result into NumPy array, yeah, you can also use NumPy functions in this case. As yeah, kindly see here, Yeah, we are just going to have the NumPy array, and of course, other than just giving this functionality, kindly have a note of it. This is what the array. On other than that, dear friend, yeah, of course, you can use aggregative NumPy function. For that also, you can just get it as like a max of that aggregation, and yeah, you can get it as like the result here. So this is what the exact maximum data according to that NumPy. And in this case, the data frame is reduced to a series, yeah, in which each element corresponds to the maximum value of each column. So here, of course, our columns are A, B, C, and D. Yeah, so the applications of a NumPy by aggregation function on the data frame is in a column wise. Dear friends, applying functions with an apply method, we are just going to see the next one. And yeah, the library, Panda library provides the possibility to apply any functions, okay, on objects such as like data frames and series. And yeah, to do this, the library provides several methods like inclusions of this apply, the function called apply here. Okay, so this apply method takes a functions and by default apply it to the data frame column by column, considering their values as input. So the result will then depend on what the function is programmed to do. If the function is used in aggregating, that is, it takes an input list and return a single value, as a result, yeah, we will get a series, okay, with each element corresponding to the column. So otherwise it will operate element by element, and in this case we will obtain as a result a data frame of the same size as original one. Okay, yeah, let me just make use of sum numpy, np.sum here. Okay, so as an aggregation function. So before that, let me just create a data frame here with the matrix of 3 into 3 matrix. So the size is 3 into 3. So here we just go with the data frame. Okay, so let I execute it. Yeah, see here, dear friends, yeah, with the example of np.sum, okay, actually it is an aggregation function, that is, it is adds up a list of a value and return the result. So if applied to a data frame, we will have a series with each element equal to the sum of every single column. Okay, so that is what we are just going to get it. And yeah, let I just execute it. So kindly have a note of it, how it just going to give us our output. So see here, this is how the exact summation. So 1, 7 and 4, it is the exact summation of the column A. Okay, and 2, 5, B, 8, it is the exact column of the B, and we just get it the 15. And towards the C column, yeah, 3, 6 and 9, of course, we just get the 8 in. And if instead we want to apply this function line by line, so it would be sufficient to explicitly specify the access parameter as an argument and set it to 1. And of course, I just let it know, if you want to just make it towards the row wise, yeah, the default is access is equal to 0. Okay, so now I just want to make it towards the 1 by 1, column by column. So see here, dear friends. So here we just get the exact value line by line, okay, which we apply to this function. Okay, yeah, fine, dear friends. Now, if we use the same function as np.square root, okay, which evaluate each element in an input list and return as many as rest. That is element wise function. So we will obtain a data frame having the same dimension and labels, okay, as the original. So let me just have the same data frame df, and now we are just going to apply the square root. And when I'm just making towards the square root, so kindly just have a note of it, how we just get it. So see here, Dear friends, although we have used NumPy function here to explain how the apply method works, this is especially useful for applying custom functions to our data frame. So this can be function previously defined in the same NumPy, same Python programming. Okay, so yeah, of course we can just make use of the lambda constructions also, but being able to use function external to the Python library, and of course we can also make use of NumPy, often defined for other purpose, so can be useful in our calculation. So to know what is an example, yeah, we could use it in our data frame itself. A function created to double the values. Okay, here it is just created the exact double the values. I just want to make it. Okay, so this function just created to double the values previously defined within the same, which we just make use of it. Okay, so that is by using this apply method. Okay, so this function can be applied on our data frame by passing in name as an aggregate function. Okay, and here, yeah, of course, one among the argument in our apply method. Okay, so we are just going to pass it as an argument. So kindly just see here what it is. Of course, this is a double up. Okay, I just want to make this x as an input, and whatever the input it just gets, of course, it is just going to be doubled up. Okay, it is just going to be multiplied by 2, that is twice the number. So yeah, that exact function we are just going to call as a parameter in this apply function. Okay, so now let me get the result. And dear friend, as you can see, the element wise behavior of the external function has been taken into consideration, applying it to the data frame element by element. Okay, so a new data frame was obtained with doubled value. So this is what our new data frame 2, and here we just get the doubled value. And another method also, it's that different for of defining a function is to use the lambda operator. So this allows us to specifically insert a function in a console thing and direct way. Okay, which is the direct way is in the sense inline way. Okay, inline function. So without having to define any functions in the code. So that is also, it is possible. So kindly just see here this lambda function. I just want to make it with an aggregations of maximum and minimum. Okay, so kindly just see this can also be passed as a lambda function in one among the thing. Okay, so yeah, this can be formed. And also in this case, the aggregation nature of this function is respected. Okay, so of course, the inline function is evaluated column by column, resulting in a series as a result. So this also can be done per line by explicitly setting the parameter as like axis is 1. So kindly just have a note of it to the previous and here. So we just included only one parameter here as an axis, and so that here it is towards the column wise. Yeah, as it default, it is towards the axis is equal to 0, and here we just specify as axis as 1. Okay, dear friends, next is, of course, we are just going to make use of an pipe method. See, in addition to the apply method, the pandas library provides another important method, that is the pipe method, that allows you to apply functions on the data frame. So it is used often in case where the apply method is unable to do this. So for an example, say, although very rare, there may be of course, yeah, here. So there may be functions that operates at the level of table wise by aggregating. So a simple example could be that for having to calculate the maximum value of all the values. So within the data frame. So containing all the numerical values. And yeah, let me just create one data frame here. So of course, the same data frame, let also be making it use as an DF. And yeah, kindly just have a note of it, dear friends. In this case, we may have an already defined external function available to perform their task. So in our function, how we are just going to make it is, yeah, in our case, we are just going to make an external function defined as like a maximus. Okay, so to apply it to our data frame, yeah, we are just going to pass that exact function to the pipe method. Okay, so let I just execute this, and yeah, we are just going to identify the maximum value of all the values within the data frame, okay, containing all the numerical values. So kindly have a note of it. We are just going to make it by pipe method. Okay, so of course 9 is the maximum. Yeah, and kindly just have a note of it. In our data frame, yeah, we are just getting it. So as we can see, we have a single value as the result. Okay, so which is the maximum value present within the data frame. But couldn't we have done the same thing with the apply method? Okay, so but yeah, well, if we apply this kind of function to the apply method, what we expect, see, kindly we get an unexpected thing. So kindly just have a note of it, what we are just going to do. So before that, kindly have a note of what is there in our data frame. So this is what our data frame, and yeah, now I'm just going to execute it with the apply. So kindly just see here what it happens. Apply method with the maximum. And dear friends, as we can see from the result, yeah, apply works at the level of row wise or column wise, and even though it is very adaptability, so it cannot move up to the level of iteratability. Okay, so in this case, we are therefore forced to use the pipe method. Okay, now let me just make chaining the pipe method. Okay, another particular of pipe and apply method is their ability to operate in chaining. Okay, so several calls to the method are chained so that it is easy for them at different functions will be applied to the incoming object, and yeah, the result applied to be passed on to the next method. So during this step, the starting data frame will be processed until the desired result is obtained. So let me take an example here. Yeah, dear friends, the same data frame, that is, let me just have the resultant of this maximum. Okay, so function that is used earlier now. So this one, let me just make use of it. So the same result can be applied by combining two application of max. Okay, so kindly just see here this pipe np.max, and again one more chaining of pipe with an np.max. Okay, what we have going to get it? Yeah, this is how. Yeah, we have applied two column wise function. Okay, so in the first pipe method, what we have just done is, yeah, the maximum value of a single column were calculated. In the second pipe method, the maximum value among all the maximum of the column were calculated. So this can be clearly seen if we break down the steps as like this. So see here, this is how the step 1, and result of that step 1 is applied to the step 2. Okay, so this is how it happened. Okay, so let me just execute it. Yeah, so this is how it happened, and of course we just get the resultant of this as the 9 to be the maximum number of this. Okay, yeah, dear friends, it is possible to apply all the combination of functions necessary to obtain the desired result. So whether they are external functions or inline functions or numpy functions, so it is only necessary to take into account that all that at each step in chaining, element wise function will return objects of the same size. So whether it can be of series, remain series, and data frames, that is also going to be remained as a data frame. Okay, so let me just move on to the next one. So kindly just see here, dear friends, if there are functions by aggregating, the dimension will decrease. And of course, whether it is a series will be a single value and the data frame will be a series. So how come this can be happen? Yeah, let me just have it by using this double up. So kindly have a note of it. I'm just going to give this pipe double up, and here pipe mean value, and to the last we are just going to have a lambda functions of x minus 2. Okay, so x, that is minus 2. So here, of course, we are chaining the function, and yeah, kindly have a note of it, what we just get it at. And yeah, in this case, we would have achieved the same result. Okay, achieved the same result using the apply method also. And yeah, let me just make use of the same thing here, that is chaining the apply. Okay, apply of double up, apply of np dot mean, apply of the same lambda. Kindly compare it. What it happens? Yeah, of course, both are same. Okay. Yeah, dear friends. Now, next, let me just apply the functions with arguments with the pipe. Of course, we have already used some simple method. So let me just go it into extended. So far we saw all the functions that take no argument being applied, but this does not always happen. So sometimes to carry out the calculation, yeah, implemented by the function, it may be necessary to specify one or more values useful for the calculation. So for this purpose, the pipe method helps us, which is able to accept an argument in addition to the name of the function to be applied. Okay, so the values to be passed. So for an example, if we specify an external function, so let me just have an external function adder, so that it does the adding between the two objects. So here we are just going to have the adder as an external function, and it is just going to have two input A and B, and it is going to return the two object summation. Okay, so here it is go. So let I just execute it, and now yeah, this function will be needed two operand to work. So far we saw the first operand that gives the data frame, calling the pipe method. Okay, while the second operand must be passed to the applied function. So you just need to add a second argument to the pipe method. Okay, so containing the value to pass it. So let me just do here, this is what the external function, and let me just give a variable, that is the value. Okay, and what it happens? Yeah, kindly just have a note of it, of course, to the data frame. But anyhow, let I just have what is there in the DF first. So I just want to show you what is there in the DF first. Oh, this is the exact DF. And yeah, this is the data frame, and we are just going to apply the data frame with the pipe method and to the adder, that is a plus b, and we are just going to have the second as among the value. Okay, kindly just see here. So 1, that is plus 2, 2, that is plus 2, 3 with the plus 2, and 4 plus 2, 5 plus 2, 6 plus 2, all the things that is exactly it's given. Okay, so exactly, dear friends, we passed a scalar value to add to our data frame element by element. But you can also go further and go directly to a series or a data frame. So the rules then applied within the functions will respond, okay, to the arithmetic rules between the structured data of the pandas library. Okay, now next let me just make it some more functionality here. Yeah, kindly just have a note of it. Yeah, this is what the exact data, and yeah, we are just going to combine it. Kindly just have a note of it. Both the things. Yeah, we are going to have the first of all, we are just going to create this data frame, and next one, of course, the piping or adder of this data frame too. Okay, so yeah, I just to show you, this is what the data frame which I just had it, first one DF, and after that, of course, we are just going to have it a reshape of 1:1. Okay, so everything as an identity. And here I'm just going to add the both. Add the both is df1 plus df2, and we are getting the result in the df3. This is the exact result, dear friends. Okay, now let me just have one more method. Okay, so in addition to pipe and apply, there are two more functions is there. That is, one is apply map and the next one is series. Okay, however, this method work differently, accepting only element-wise function. And kindly just see here, dear friends, in the while the apply method, the function works according to its programming. What we just see in a aggregation or element-wise. Okay, but the apply method or this map method will force the function to evaluate element by element. So this will result in the data frame or a series with the same number of element as the original one. Okay, and of course we just going to apply the function in the aggregation and is not able to do this. Okay, we will not get any variation in the value inside the data frame or even an error message. Okay, so kindly have a note of it. This is what the apply method, and here I'm just going to pass the double method, double upping. Okay, so of course we just know what is that in the df. So this is what our df, and of course we are doubling it, and yeah, we are using here as apply map. Okay, and next one, see here, yeah, you can also pass the same thing through the series, and yeah, here you are applying or to the series, and this one you are using map to the series. Yeah, we are just using it in a map wise. And yeah, dear friends, in this session, yeah, we understood what the manipulation of a data in a tabular form consisting of modifying the entire structure of the data frame or performing calculation on the values inside. And of course, in the previous, we have just seen shifting, reshaping and pivoting, which are very common practice for those who work on spreadsheet, and these are now familiar concept even for those who only work with pandas. And yeah, dear friends, while with regard to data processing, the ability to apply a generic functions coming from a Python library extends by ability to perform data analysis with Python even in fields of applications. And yeah, from each other is that. Okay, let's go on with the concept of manipulating the values of data frame through the use of functions. Dear friends, we have said that applying functions to the data frame has the purpose of transforming it in some way. So to obtain the result that brings us closer to the information we need in the data analysis process. Okay, so let me just discuss on to the first one, the transform method. And dear friends, the transform method applies transformations on the starting data frame by applying functions. So apparently it would appear as identical behavior to the apply method. Okay, and yeah, here we have already created as such like a data frame, and kindly have a note of it. Yeah, this is how a data frame has been created, and the value it would be as like a range from 1 to 10, and yeah, it's reshaped with 3 into 3, that is of course 3 rows and 3 columns. And here we have already named the indexes, the rows as lowercase of ABC and towards the column as uppercase of ABC. So let me have a look of our data frame. Here we go. Okay, dear friends, yeah, let me just give some method to have a transformation. Okay, so let me just create a function here where it is just going to give us a double of the input. So here, of course, what we have, we are having the first row. Kindly have an example of a first row. It is 1, 2 and 3. When we just multiply it by 2, okay, so it is all about 2, 4 and 6 respectively. So let me just make this exact function, that is the double. Okay, we are just going to call it into the another function which we specified as transform. Okay, and of course kindly have a note of it. We are just going to name it as like a df2 and another data frame, and yeah, here we got the exact result. And kindly have a note of it. This is what the data frame, original data frame, it is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 and 9. And of course, when we just double, that is multiple 8 by 2. So we just got the exact another data frame, that is df2 with the values 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 and 14, 16 and 18. Okay, now if we use that double function, with the apply method. Of course, we have already seen it with the behavior of an apply method. Okay, so here when we just apply onto that method, kindly have a note of it. What is the exact result? Okay, so from what we just seen, yeah, the result are much the same. Both use the double function and apply it to the elements within the data frame. So it would seem like two redundant methods apparently, but what is the difference? Yeah, the difference are there are appear in more complex cases where the peculiar or the transform, the method transform, were highlighted with respect to apply method. Let me just see some examples. And dear friends, this transform method can work with multiple functions at the same time, but the apply method cannot. Okay, so let me just make a pass of even we can just pass either as a list or as a dictionary. Okay, and kindly have a note of it. If we are just making it towards the list function, and if we apply onto it, and if I just create here with a function as multi definition. Okay, and yeah, by passing a list of method, the multi-index of the data frame. Okay, the multi-index of the data frame is obtained with the formation of the second level of the label. So kindly have a note of it, how it is just making it towards the labels. Okay, sorry, the level of labels in the produced data frame. And for each column of the original data frame, as many columns are generated as there are passed method, and within each of them there will be listed the results obtained by the applying this method. And kindly have a note of it, dear friends. If you want to reduce a multi-index data frame towards a data frame, yeah, here as a result of passing that list. Okay, so here let me just passing a list of a function to the transform method. We can also always get a multi-index data frame now. So from this complex object, it is possible to extract the data frame related to each column or each single function. Okay, so for an example, let me just want the data frame related to the transformation. Okay, here transformation for the double function. Okay, so kindly have a note of it. What we have just used, yeah, we have used the operations, that is the objects such as index slice. Okay, so this kind of operation concerning with the multi-indexed data frame, and we use the objects such as index slice, and which is necessary to make the selection on several levels. And here we have used the drop level, which is necessary to eliminate the level of indexes from the column. Okay, so yeah, here we just go towards this function and kindly note what is the exact resultant. Yeah, we just get 8 as 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 and 18. Yeah, to the same data here. And dear friends, instead of that passing a dictionary with the column labels as a key and the functions to be applied as value, yeah, you will get a new data frame with the structure specified here. Okay, so let me just make use of that here and kindly see here. This is np.square-root and here np.double, where you are just going to make use of this functionality as like a square root and to the top double. Okay, so yeah, here we just go with the data and see here, dear friends, you can just pass that also by using the dictionary functionality. Okay, anyhow, till this we have created some functionality related to the transform, and yeah, we have seen something related to the apply by making it an apply double. Okay, and I just want to mainly know how the things that goes towards the transform and to the apply method. Okay, let me just make it towards an aggregation element. See, the transform method is unable to do something that the apply method does correctly. So the transform method cannot work with the function that works by aggregation. Okay, in fact, if you pass the functions like here, kindly have a note of it, np.sum. Okay, so this np.sum to the transform method, you will get an error. So kindly have a note of it. Let me just execute it. Of course, we just get an error. What is the error here? So see here, function did not transform. So meaning that this function is not intended as a transformation of one data frame into the another. While as we can just see it as by applying it onto the apply method, it manages to do it, okay, without any issues or any problem. Kindly have a note of it. It is done. It is done. And yeah, of course, here this transform works with a single column at a time. And yeah, here also kindly have a note of it. This is an exact adding method, okay, adding function. So here another difference which we just want to discuss is with the apply method is that the transform method does not have access to other column, while this this transforms, that is one single series or one single column. Yeah, however, this apply method has no such limit. It just does by it any of the listing. But here in transform method, it has only with a single column. Okay, so kindly have a note of it. Here let me just give adding of the first column and to the second column. Okay, so if we specify a method that takes two specific columns of the data frame by adding their values together. And first of all, let me just see it with the apply method. And here we just go with the adding function. And yeah, here we are in the axis of column wise. And yeah, we just get the exact result. Okay, so we see that from the result, this apply method works without any issues on two columns or at the same time. So if instead we apply the same function in the transform method, just have a look of it. This adding, if I'm just making it towards the transform method, okay, so we will get an error, of course, anyhow, just executed. Yeah, kindly just have a look of it. The same function did not transform. Okay, so in fact, if we check the result of this functions with apply, we certainly get a result, but it is not the in a data frame. So all these limitation on the transform method are set specifically to give a semantic meaning to the concept of transforming specific to the pandas library. And dear friends, I just repeat it again, that is transforming means transforming one data frame into another and manipulating the data, making it evolve into something different. So they are imposed to avoid that. So sometimes even unconsciously the structure of the data frame being analyzed, that can be varied in some way. Okay, so yeah, let me just move on to the next concept, aggregation. And this aggregation, yeah, it is completely opposite concept to the transforming. So that is what aggregation, and this carried out previously the operation that is not allowed for transforming. That is summarizing a set of values through a functions into a single result, or therefore the values are aggregated. So the data frame in this case reduces its size and changes structurally. Okay, fine. This aggregations allows you to express many operations simultaneously in the conscious way, and is expressed using the aggregation function, that is AGG here. Okay, fine. Let me just start it with defining a data frame. Okay, as to the same, yeah, we are creating it with a shape of 3 into 3 matrix with the index as lowercase ABC and with the columns as uppercase ABC. And kindly have a note of it, dear friends, we are going to make use of this aggregation function. So here we calling it as an aggregation function. And when on executing, first of all, let me just see here what it just makes. Yeah, here it is just showing it. See, even this aggregation, it is like the transform method only, that can receive multiple functions simultaneously, either as an element of a list or a value in a dictionary. Okay, but as here, yeah, we can also apply it towards another functionality. Here as like a list, we can apply it, and of course we are just going to do it with a dictionary too. Okay, so let I just execute both the things and then make an discussion onto this. So here what we just get as like the same transform method, and here we just gone towards the aggregation function. Okay, so that aggregation function, so far actually it would seems that there is no difference whatever with the transform method. Actually this aggregation handles the by aggregation functions perfectly, which the transform with the transform that is didn't. And in fact we passes the np dot sum function, which we get a series as a result. So instead of an error message, yeah, in the functionality of transformation we just got an error, but here we just received it in as like a single column, or it is as like a series. Okay, and yeah, we can also insert this function, insert the function by aggregation. You get very different results from the transform method. See, for an example, if we are just passing a list of the function, okay, and these functions we obtain a two-dimensional data frame, where this time the name of the function are passed as labels to the index of the line. And kindly have a note of it how we are just going to do this. And let we have the mean, the aggregation function mean, and here it is the sum, and observe there is a, yeah, how this shows. Okay, and yeah, whereas we can get a result, series results also, as we just pass the functions as the value of this by using a dictionary. So see here how we just get that dictionary value. Okay, so of course dear friends, another thing, you can also have more functionalities. And yeah, one among the thing is mean, another is sum, and here also square root is there. And yeah, here can I just execute this also, but what it seems error, and towards the error kindly have a note of it. It says cannot combine transform and aggregation. Got it, dear friends? So cannot combine transform and aggregation option. So it is therefore clear that the purpose of aggregation method is complementary of that of transform, where the former should work exclusively with function by aggregation and later with function by element. And in fact, if we pass both the function which we just specified here, I just scroll it up, kindly have a note of it. Here what we have just done, one is towards the resultant of transform, another is by aggregation. And of course, if we pass both type of functions or only those functions by element, yeah, we get an error with the error message. Okay, so of course, dear friends, yeah, here we just seen both the exact complementary functionality related to the manipulation, and mainly related, which is related onto the data processing. Dear friends, in the previous session, we understood what the manipulation of the data in tabular form consists of, whether modifying the entire structure of the data frame or performing calculations on the values inside. And of course, furthermore, we have also understood the difference between the operation of transformation or aggregation of data in a data frame. And dear friends, to this concept, yeah, we are going to further discuss about the useful even in the case of grouping operations. And here the grouping is particular process in which one or more steps as like splitting or applying and combining, it's going to be applied more than one or more steps. And where the first step, which I just specified as splitting, is based on dividing the data frame into groups based on the particular criteria. The second step instead involves the application of one or more functions, transformations or aggregation on each individual group independently. Finally, yeah, the third step involves the reunifications of all the results of the second step to regain a new data frame. Dear friends, let me just go into the discussion on group by method. Dear friends, this group by method divides a data frame into different group, based on different selection criteria passed as an argument, as I have already specified. But a data frame can group by either by using column or index. And in both cases, the group by method groups together based on the selection of element with the same value. So kindly have a note of it. Here I am just going to create a data, that is a data frame. Okay, and here of course towards the data frame how it has been arranged, so kindly have a note of it. Towards the shape it is 6,3, so of course 6 rows with 3 columns, and here we have already specified with the index and columns. And to be added, what I have just provided is it has to be sorted values. And the first step of grouping, which we have already specified as like a splitting, based on the values contained within the given column. So here what we have just given is few column data is there, and we use the optional by parameter to which the label of the reference column is passed, and here we just referenced the column as like A. And all the rows that have the same values in this column will be grouped together. So it is clear that in the end we will have as many group as possible values present in A. So how we can just make use of it? So kindly have a note of it. We can also have a look how this can be processed. And splitting it into groups produces a data frame group by object that is not printable, because actually it does not show the content using the print function. And one way to see all the groups the data frame has been split into, and the elements within them is by writing a function or by using the iteration. And kindly have a note of it. Here this for group we have used to make the iteration functionality, and when on just executing, kindly have a note of it, dear friends. So see here, this one, a non-visibility result of how this is, see actually a result of the operations of the division into group. It is due to the fact that is not the result that is expected from this operation. But anyhow, I just let you know how this can be done. Okay, see here, dear friends, when on just making this towards the above, so this is what the exact data frame. Okay, so I have already specified in the cell 2. So how this can be grouped by? So here we have as like A, B and C. Here we just have 1, 2, 3 and 1, 4, 2, 2, 4, 4, 3, 1, 1, again 3, 1, 4, and of course 4, 3, 4. So this is what we just got by making it towards the iteration. But in fact, grouping requires that a function is subsequently applied to each group implicitly defined by the group by function. So if we just make it, or if we apply any of the functions like this, and if you want to make it as a group by, so kindly have a note of it. We are sorted in the values. Here it is already specified. Here it is just specified as like we just done towards the A functionality. So how we are just making the group is, this would be the group 1. And of course we have the group 2 here, and this is the exact group 3, and to the last one it is what the group 4. And of course here I already specified the step 1 is by splitting. Okay, now before going on to the second functionality, I just want to make and apply a method. So here what we are just going to do is, kindly have a note of it. Here we are going to make a maximizing. So when we just use the np.max function, how it would be make it? The same thing here also, but let's see the exact operation in detail, how it is possible and how it has been done. And yeah, as I have already specified, this is the exact step 1 we have applied towards the splitting. Okay, so the maximum values on the column B of the group having the 1 in the column A is 1. Okay, while the maximum value on the column C in 3, okay, in 3, that is what we are just going to take it as the second one. Okay, the maximum value of column B of the group having the value 2 is the exact third one. Okay, so now let me just combine this with the formation. So from this group 1, yeah, we are just going to apply np.max functionality, where from this what we just get, of course, A, B, C, and here we just get 1, 4, 3. So see here, among this 1 is the maximum, among this 4 is the maximum, among this 3 is the maximum. That is what we just got. And from this group 2, of course, there is no much functionality. So when we just apply max of this, the same thing, 2, 4, 4. That is what going to happen here. And when we just apply towards the group 3, the np.max functionality, so kindly have a note of it. Among this, yeah, 3 is the maximum, 1 is the maximum, and among 1 and 4, 4 is the maximum. So we just make like this. And towards the np of max of the group 4, yeah, there is no further changes. It just was going to happen. And dear friend, as you can see here, what we are just going to have, yeah, we are going to have a smaller data frame which is obtained in which column A is not the longer present. So we are just going to have us like 4, 3, 4, 4, 1, 4 and 3, 4. So this is what we are going to have it. So as it is specified towards the grouping, the first step is splitting, and the second step, it is all about the applying, and the third step, it is what? Combining. Okay, so let me just make this exact functionality in the maximum. Okay, so let me just apply here and identify whether this is possible or if this is the same result or not. So kindly note, yeah, what we just got is 1, 4, 3, 4, 4, 3 and 4, 4. Okay, so this is how we just got here. And when we just apply towards the functionality on the other, yeah, we can also make use of the sum functionality. Okay, let me just execute and see what is there, the sum functionality we just have, and towards the count also. So yeah, we can just apply it any of the functionality. Okay, so here the np.max function which we have just applied in the fifth cell, yeah, you can also, the result which is given for each column, or the maximum value of the group for the column B and the maximum group value of for the column C, how it is obtained. Yeah, the same thing we can just go towards the sum function and to the count function also. Okay, now let me just move on to the group method for indexes. And here I just want to specify one thing, dear friends, that is the grouping as well as by column and by row. So can also be obtained at the index level. So by specifying the indexing level using the optional level parameter. So this type of grouping is particularly useful in the case of multi-index. And yeah, where there are levels in which some labels are repeated many times and which can be used to divide the data into groups. And kindly have a note of it, dear friends. Here, yeah, of course, we have applied with a tuple of XA, XB, YA, YB, and where we are just going to specify it as like an index. And the next one, the same thing for the tuples with the tuples, and of course we are just going to make it as a multi-indexing on to that of columns. Okay, so when we just create this with the indexes and to the columns, kindly have a note of it. What is the multi-indexed data frame we execute? And then let me just go towards the leveling functionality. So see here, dear friends, when we just make this one towards the level 0 grouping. So here we are just going to make use of the group by level is equal to 0, and yeah, from that we want to identify the maximum. So here, what is the level 0? So level 0 here, it just comes as like X, Y and AB. So here this was the level 0. Okay. And towards this we just going to have with the X and Y. Okay. And with the X and Y, yeah, we have to make it towards any one thing from the above. So here 1 and 5, of course 5 is the maximum. 2 and 6, 6 is the maximum. 3 and 7, 7 is the maximum, and 4 and 8, of course 8 is the maximum. Okay, so again, let me just go on to the other one on Y. So here also, yeah, we would just get the 13, 14, 15 and 16 as the maximum. So kindly just have a note of it. Let me execute this and check for the result. Yeah, here we just got. So in this case, the rows with the same label, same label at level 0. So here we just make it same label at level 0 of the index of row, that is X and Y. Okay, or grouped, and within the group the greater value is chosen for each column. So information regarding the second level of the labels is lost, which is AB, that is lost. Okay, instead we can apply now as like group level 1. So kindly have a note of it. Let me just go towards the group level 1. So let this cell 8 would be visible. So now kindly just have a note of it. If I just go towards the level 1, okay, kindly just see towards this multi-indexed data frame how this happens. So the same operation will happen, but with regards to the label of the second level of the index. And second level of the index, how it just make a, yeah, of course, information regarding to the top level label is lost. And it is interesting to note that in this case, by grouping according to the level of the indices, it is possible to group by column. So in fact, actually by also adding the optional parameter here, we have already specified axis 1. So kindly just wait. First of all, let me make this towards level 1 and then we just go for axis. So kindly have note of it. According to this one, okay, so what would be the maximizing? Yeah, from this level of A, it is 1, or this level of A as 9. So which is the maximum? Of course 9 is the maximum. And from 2 and 10, which is maximum? 10 is the maximum. And of course from 3 and 11, the 11 is the maximum. And from 4 and 12, 12 is the maximum. Yeah, to the same thing, yeah, we are just going to have the level 1 here, and with the maximum of B and to the B in Y. Okay, so that is what we are just going to apply in level 1. So let me just see the output here. So see here. So what we just got? 9, 10, 11, 12 and 13, 14, 15, 16. So this is how we just can get it by maximum of this group by functionality. And of course, yeah, as I have already specified, we can also add the optional parameter axis 1. So more columns with the same label are grouped together. Okay, let me just apply towards the level 0 functionality. So see here, 9, the cell 9, which it just has level 0 and towards maximum. But here we are going to add axis 1 now. So in this axis 1, what we are just going to have? So according to this, when we apply axis 1, kindly just to see the resultant. So it is furthermore functionality related to the X and Y column. So here axis 1 is specified towards the column. So previously we have just done towards the index, and this one it is towards the column functionality. So yeah, let me apply onto the next also with the same level 1 and axis 1. Kindly just observe here. Yeah, it is the one according to the column wise. And dear friend, in this example, we have directly used the np.sum function of the NumPy. Okay, so that is the exact NumPy library to make it easier to understand how grouping works, and particular for the splitting phase. In general, actually, however, any type of functions can be applied to grouping. Therefore, techniques such as the transformation and aggregation that we have seen previously enter into this regard. So these are operations that can be used in conjunctions with grouping. So in fact, let me just make use of the aggregation function. Okay, so in fact the methods as like apply or transform and aggregation can be used in conjunction with the group by functionality, and depends on which techniques is used, yeah, you will get very different result. And kindly have a note of it. Let me just make use of this group by with the transform. So by applying the transform method in conjunction with grouping, we get a data frame that has the same number of rows as the original data frame. Okay, while as far as the columns are concerned, they will be one less. Okay, so kindly have a note of it how this comes here. So yeah, this A that has been grouped by according to A, yeah, with the transformation, the value contained in column A have been lost. They only served to subdivide into computational group. So the result obtained by the group were then assigned to every single row according to their belonging groups. So in fact, there are lines with identical result. Okay, now let me just apply the aggregation method in conjunction with the group by functionality. So group by method, so results in one row for each group. So kindly have a note of it. So one row for each group, and while with regard to the columns, there will be one less, that is column A has been the index of the new data frame. Column A would be the index here. And although, see, actually the same np.sum, that is what the function have been applied, and the result obtained are significantly different between the transformation and here aggregation. So in fact, the aggregation necessarily produce a smaller result. The number of rows will now corresponds to the existing group, while for the other columns, the aggregation function replaces the different value with a single value, that is the result. Inversely, from the case of transformation, it is the index label of the original data frame that are no longer present, and since in the new system they have lost their meaning. So while the value of the column A have become the new label. Okay, now let me just move on to the apply method. So kindly have a note of it, dear friends. As far as the grouping is concerned, a method can be applied outside the system of aggregation and transformation. And here this apply method, okay, so with apply method in conjunction with the group by method, what we just get is one row for each group as a result. So kindly have a note of it. Let me execute here what we just get. So yeah, we are able to see that is in this case the result is still different. Okay, as far as column A is concerned, we have the same behavior as the aggregation with the conversion of its value into index label. Kindly have a note of it. But we therefore have an aggregation that has led to the reduction of data frame to only 4 lines each of each group. But at the same time, there are some difference such as column A, which still remained as such in the data frame and whose values are the result of the aggregation, that is sum of, such as column B and C. Okay, next, dear friends, let me just move on to the next concept, categorization. See, and operations that may come in handy during the analysis of data frame is to categorize the row within it, dividing them into different categories of belonging, or as like we just say the classes. Okay, so the categorization is explicitly implemented in the pandas library, which provide a series of objects and methods that perform it in an extremely controlled manner by the user. Okay, now let me just create a simple data frame to better understanding the categorization. And yeah, as usual, the shape is 3, 3 and towards the index and the column, a very simple thing. Okay, and here, yeah, one way to implement them in a data frame is to choose a column with a series of value. So values that is repeated over and over again between the various rows. Okay, so that can somehow express the different categories of belonging. If this column does not exist, a new one can still be created with the element appropriately valued. So let me just see, actually in this example case, yeah, having no columns in the data frame. Okay, so with information that helps us identify in the categorization of belonging of the rows. Okay, so we can provide a new column with values of belonging categories that we have somehow evaluated externally. Okay, so to create a category column, we use the categorical constructor as input, a list or even a series it can be. Okay, so here let me just make it as like a list. Okay, and is inserted in which there are the values of the categories corresponding in the various line. Okay, and then two more optional parameters are added. So the categories in the list may not be all possible, and also often the categories have an order or a hierarchy. So in the categories parameter, we insert a list with all possible categories, that is in the thing which we just make here. Yeah, these are the categories to which we be able to do it. Okay, and if these categories have a hierarchy or a precise order, so then we will set the ordered parameter to be true. So here I have just specified ordered to be true. Okay, by default it is false. Okay, so now let me just create, and yeah, the newly created category object. So kindly have a note of it. Newly created categorical object is then assigned to the column with a non-existent label to create a new one. Okay, so that is what here it is specified, that is the cat as the exact label. And yeah, how it is able to see, this is how it happened. And to check if the column belongs to a category and what is order is, yeah, we first specify the cat attribute. That is what here it is specified, the cat attribute, and then we call the as ordered. Okay, as ordered method. And when we just make use of this, yeah, we are just going to have these indices, that is ABC, which is in the lower, and of course the category functionality, that is the 4, 1 and 4, of course. Okay, so let me just have a look onto this. See here, yeah, this is how. So as we can see, the data type here of the column is category. The data type is category, and then the correct order of all possible category is also shown, even if they are not present in the data frame. Okay, here it is already presented, which is the exact order categorized. And at this point, having consolidated the fact that the data frame has a column of categories, you can sort this value or sort its value within it according to the hierarchical scale of the categories. So we then use the short value method. Okay, so let me just apply that short value method, and kindly see here, short value method by the category. Okay, and yeah, let I execute it. See here how it happens. So according to the category 1 and 4 and here it is again 4. So grouping can also be used in the case of categories. A useful applications in categorization is knowing how many rows in the data frames belongs to each category. So that is also can be applied by using the size. Okay, so here let me just make it. So see here, in the category 1 we have 1 data, in the category 4 we have 2 data. So size of. Okay, so that is also much useful here. And yeah, dear friends, so far we have created a new column to specify categories in a data frame. But as mentioned earlier, there may already be a column that has suitable values to express the categories. So in this case, we proceed in this way actually. See, let's modify the data frame, assuming it's already has a 4th column in which they are the values suitable for expressing. Okay, so categories like that. So here, if we just have like the categories like this, okay, how it happens? Okay, so I just want to make it towards some changes here. Okay, therefore have a category column that contains the categories to which each row it is belonging. So first let we need to change the data type of the column, turning it into category, and let we just move on to the further. So for that, as type, that is AS type, okay, we have to use it, and of course we have to set it for the categories. And yeah, then if as in this previous case the categories have an order, you can specify the series of the categories with their order by using the set categories. And here it is also specified the set categories method and launching it from the cat attribute. So here this is the attribute. The first argument of the method will be the list containing the ordered sequence of the category, and the second it would be the one which we are just making ordered is equal to true. So if we just do so kindly have a note of it how it have been. And now if you can sort the rows by category by using the short value method, and now check for the one. So here this is what the shorted one. And that's wrap up our exploration of advanced data frame functionalities in Pandas. We learned how to sift, reshape and pivot data, iterate efficiently across the rows, apply functions at scale with apply, pipe and map. And of course, we also have discussed with the transform and aggregation values, group data sets for deeper analysis, and categorize data into meaningful labels. And dear friends, in the world of generative AI, these are not just fancy tricks. They are critical pre-processing steps. Whether you are reshaping chat logs into fine-tuning paths, applying custom cleaning functions to text, or grouping multimodal data by category, or categorizing responses by sentiment, Pandas makes it possible. So these advanced operations are the bridge between raw, unstructured data sets and polished, structured inputs that fuel LLMs, diffusion models, and retrieval augmented pipelines. And dear friends, if you found this session helpful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to stay tuned for a next session in this Gen AI journey. And hit the bell icon so you never miss a chance. See you in the next session, dear friends. Thank you. Happy learning.